So one positive thing that comes out of the 76ers season is that they will not be going to Center City. They're going to stay in South Philly. Is it a positive, or did people want to see the move? I'm saying it's good to stay in South Philly. We're going to break that down and so much more right here on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Locked On 76ers. We're your host, Keith Pompey, Sixers beat writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer. I'm Kayla Santiago, sideline reporter for the Delaware Blue Coats, the Philadelphia 76ers NBA G League affiliate. And from the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. Make sure you visit FanDuel.com today to get started. And if you want to watch us on YouTube or listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts, we have that in addition to now a free daily newsletter that's on LockedOnDaily.com. So make sure you go check it out today. So the back and forth, the new arena we have to discuss. It's something we really haven't been able to break down because the 76ers have had a big slate of games. In addition to anybody you want to see from the 76ers team in the All-Star game, I know I don't want to see any Sixers player in that game. And then kind of a look ahead at what we're expecting to see in these next contests. So Keith, the 76ers new arena, there were the conversations of them wanting to move to Center City. It would do well for business out there, and people are going to go to these games no matter what. I, for one, am glad they are staying in South Philly due to just the sports complex that you don't get in a lot of other cities. I understand them wanting to go to Center City, them have their own place, but now they're saying they're going to stay in South Philly.
Yeah, they are going to stay in South Philly. What they're going to do is they're going to build an arena with the Flyers, Comcast. They're going to, from what the reports are, it's going to be, Marcus Hayes wrote it, and it's going to be a 50-50 split. Beforehand, the Sixers really weren't making a lot of money when they were renting. But to be honest with you, I don't really care where they go and where they build it. I think that a lot of times what people do is, they could go wherever they want, but a lot of times what people do is we don't like change and we feel like change is bad. You look at Los Angeles, they built an arena downtown. It was the hood. No one went there. It was a lot of people getting mugged and things like that. I heard down there from the people that I know who live in LA, and they ended up building the arena down there, the Staples Center. Then they built LA Live. Then they ended up building, ESPN has a studio there. They have all types of hotels and everything, like 5-star hotels, 5-star restaurants. It's a great place. So, I feel like if they would have built it downtown, yes, people would have been upset. People would have said this, but guess what? People would have been inside the building, right? They would have. So, it's a good back and forth. Everyone has it. At least we know they're going to stay there. It is unique in Philadelphia to have the same arenas right next to the Eagles and stuff like that, and right next to the Phillies. But at the end of the day, if I'm still covering the team, if they're in South Philly, if they're in Delaware, if they're in New Jersey, Keith Pompey is going to be sitting there covering the game no matter what.
And people tend to forget, too, the practice facilities in New Jersey as well. In addition to the NBA G League team is in Wilmington, Delaware at Chase Fieldhouse. So they kind of have those places everywhere. And change does happen. Once again, people don't like change. And it's interesting reading up on all this, too, because a lot of companies say that it would benefit them having it in Center City, that it wouldn't benefit them. I know that Chinatown and sources that we're looking at through Philadelphia news outlets saying that, they were a little bit upset about the conversation of that happening because they feel it would take business away. But I think Center City is a unique opportunity because when you look at it, everything's a little bit more walkable in terms of places you can get food. Yes, there's Xfinity Live for all these stadiums in Philadelphia, but that only has a few food spots. We have opportunities to kind of walk around, see the city, and Center City is a beautiful place as well. But right now they are staying in South Philly. And it's interesting because there's obviously been, just a lot of conversation about the team and how this team has struggled right now. For the organization, do you see this kind of as a win or a loss here, Keith? Because right now they're going back to the 50-50 with the Flyers.
I guess anything at this particular time is a win because when you look at it, they weren't, here's the thing, it's always better to own than rent, right?
Right.
You look at it, like, you may get a little portion, a percentage of ticket sales. You don't get any money on parking. You don't, it's a lot of other, you don't get anything on concessions. And if you do get something, it's just a little bit. When you own it, yeah, you get a piece of the puzzle. Now, again, if they were just doing it by themselves, of course, they would basically get everything. But the fact remains is the split that they're going to get is way better than what they were making beforehand. The only thing that I will say is the only thing that I don't like about the way this whole thing went down was basically like the timing, right?
Right.
I feel like that if we're going to be real, this thing was a waste of 2 years, of doing this. There were people, I didn't like the fact that, you know, you heard that at some of these rallies, things got heated. People said some things that were offensive. Everybody, and I get it. If you live in Chinatown, you have the right to say that you do not want that in your arena. And if you or someone else and you think that they need to build it down there to bring in businesses, you have a right to say it. But I just feel like that there was a lot of animosity. There was a lot of things that happened. And then all of a sudden it's like, psych, we're going to go elsewhere, or we change our minds. So to me, it was just a lot of wasted money, a lot of wasted time. It was a major curveball. And I just feel like it was just much. It was just too much for me, to be honest.
And I look at it too, and why I get the instance of having that conversation and wanting to push that, and they put so much money into an opportunity to do that for them just to end up and stay really in South Philly is what the conversation ends up leading back to. So when you look at it right now, that whole Center City debacle and everything like that, it wasn't even really worthwhile because they're just going to stay in South Philly. So once again, they'll split 50-50 with the Flyers still, but having an opportunity to own versus rent, also a big thing. The Philadelphia 76ers staying really in the sports complex of Philadelphia. Let us know in the comments if you like that they're staying in South Philly or if you like the opportunity of them moving to Center City, because you also think of, maybe the drive-in is a little bit easier going to South Philly. There's more parking and everything like that. But also maybe people coming from the outside in that are visitors, it is a cool opportunity for them to see Center City. It's one of the better parts and the more beautiful parts of the city of Philadelphia. So definitely pros and cons with both of those and the moves, but the 76ers are staying put at that. We're going to jump over in just a moment here too. If you want to see any 76er in the All-Star game, I know I don't. I have my reasons. We're going to see Keith's reasons as well. We'll touch on that here in the other side in just a moment. But first, we have to tell you about Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. The terms do apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Once again, that's robinhood.com/gold. Make sure you go check it out today. All right, so the 76ers do not need anybody in the All-Star game, and here's why. Do they deserve any votes? Probably not. Maybe Tyrese Maxey is the lone one to deserve votes at this point. Right now, we're kind of looking at the fan counting, the third fan returns as well. Joel Embiid, 9th in NBA in the Eastern Conference, third fan returns for front court. Paul George not listed in the top 10, while Tyrese Maxey is 6th in the East guard voting. But I don't want to see any 76er in the All-Star game because, to me, Keith, that just screams injuries. That's all it screams to me. What are your thoughts on this? If you think any 76er deserves to even be there and if they should play?
I don't think they deserve to be there this season, no. But in regards to injuries, have you seen the All-Star games lately? Like,
Yeah,
it's such a joke.
the whole layout.
Yeah, they're not going to get hurt in that one. But I mean, here's the deal. Like, when we look at it, Joel Embiid, when he's played recently, those 13 games, I will say 7 of them, he looked like an all-star starter. He looked like the most dominant big in the East. But it's hard to say that he justifies playing when he's only played in 13 games, right? You look at Paul George. Paul George is probably having the second worst season of his career right now. I mean, honestly, I'm talking about complete seasons. He's struggling mightily. Now, is he a good player? Yes. There were games where Joel Embiid didn't play. He looked like an all-star in those games. But overall, he's struggling. And Joel is 9th in front court, Eastern Conference front court players voting. Paul George is not in the top 10. And when you go down to Eastern Conference guards, you see where Tyrese Maxey is ranked 6th. Now, the thing about Tyrese Maxey is a little bit intriguing. And the intriguing thing is, I don't think he deserves to make it either. But the intriguing thing is that, Tyrese Maxey is putting up points. He's scoring points. He's in the top 10 in points scored. He's number 2 in steals in the NBA. He's averaging a career high 2. But his shooting percentage is awful, right? He's taking a lot of bad shots. And you can say a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's trying to do too much and he's putting a lot of pressure on himself. But with that being said, you ask yourself, who am I going to take off the list to put Tyrese Maxey on there, right? You look at Trae Young, he's leading the league in assists, right? They said he couldn't be a real point guard. He's playing a great season. Then you have Donovan Mitchell having a great season. Some people are up and down on Dame Lillard, but he's doing good, doing well. You have Jalen Brunson, Darius Garland. He may or he may not make it, but he's having a better year than Tyrese Maxey. So when you think of all that, I'm talking about Cade Cunningham, the guy in Detroit. When you think of all that, it's going to be tough for Tyrese to make it. Now, it's up to the coaches to vote him in, but I think that all 3 of them are going to have a tough time making the All-Star game. And I think the only one who has a chance is Tyrese, but I think that's a dwindling, a small percentage of a chance to make it.
Yeah, speaking of Cade, too, I mean, he's averaging 24.5 points on the season, almost 10 assists as well. So almost a double-double there where, Tyrese just isn't there. But I want to ask you about the new format because we haven't really touched on this that much either. Does the new format make the NBA All-Star game the worst out of all the pro teams? Because in my opinion, MLB is the best and the most competitive, and they actually play. Pro Bowl, it's like flag football at this point. Do you think this format makes it worse, or do you find it a little bit more intriguing now going into this year?
I think the pro football all-star game is the worst one. I think the NBA, I mean, right now, the way they're doing the flag football thing, but I understand why they do it. I think the all-star game, the way it is right now, the current format, the way it was before, was trash. The only time that the all-star game I felt like was good was the year that Kobe Bryant died and they were in Chicago. I felt like that was great, right? They brought it back to the old days. So, yes, they have to do something different to bring the interest in there, right? I don't know if this is going to work. And the one thing is, I will say this, again, go east, west, but if people aren't playing, it's not going to work. So we're looking at this format. Do I like it? No. But at the same time, I do want to see what it looks like before I can, make a judgment on it. Again, do I like it? No. But at the same time, I don't like watching an all-star game where you got guys bringing the ball up and attempting half-court shots and no one's playing defense, right? So something had to switch, so I understand why they're doing it.
Yeah, it's like intramural basketball. I officiated that in college, and that's the whole game. You pull up from way downtown, everybody thinks they're Steph Curry, and that's just back and forth and back and forth. That's what the NBA All-Star Game turned into. I think it's going to bring eyes just because it is different, and people are going to be intrigued to see it. Now, I know this isn't the All-Star Game, but I would love to see them bring back what they did last year with Sabrina Ionescu and Steph Curry in terms of the three-point contest, maybe bringing in Caitlin Clark this year. I think that'd be something that's really cool. Once again, that's part of NBA All-Star Weekend, though. We're talking about the new game format. So I'm in agreement with you. I don't think anybody on the 76ers deserves really a chance to go to the All-Star Game. I think that in the Eastern Conference, it's really guard heavy, and Tyrese is definitely on the outside looking in, and there's nobody else you can think of that has really even had a good season to be able to push to that point right now. And, I understand that Sixers fans might want to see that and might have an argument saying, oh, well, it's Tyrese Maxey. He's been trying to carry this team. His numbers aren't there. He hasn't been that good this season. He was injured at some point. His shot selection is terrible. They're 15-24 at the end of the day, too. So there's too many people in front of him that will end up making this All-Star game. But we'll wait and see. I'm intrigued. It's about a month away, too. So it's coming up a lot quicker than we expect. And we'll see who ends up making it and getting in and how that new format will end up playing out as well. But when we return, we're going to talk about this upcoming schedule because once again, it is a gauntlet going ahead for the Philadelphia 76ers. They are 15-24 this season, and it has been tough as any for Philadelphia to get any sort of momentum. So we're going to break that down on the other side. And we have to tell you about Skims. It's not just for women and ladies. If you're looking to get your significant other anything special for Valentine's Day or anything like that, you might want to head over to Skims' new line. Or men, if you're just looking for the most comfortable undergarments, anything like that, Skims is a great place to have. And they have a new underwear line for men as well. And it's the fit, it's the comfort, or just finding the right style. Skims has changed all of that. Their men line offers something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with a perfect balance of comfort and style. Skims is fantastic if you want to utilize it, especially just the material, everything in the team. You can shop at Skims Men's at skims.com/lockedonnba and Skims stores. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, make sure you select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. Skims is not just for the ladies, it's also for the men now too. They have a new men's line coming out, so make sure you go check that out today. And speaking of sports, and we're in the conversation of the NBA right now, but the NFL playoffs really, really heating up after the wild card round. And we're talking about the Sixers, but there's one Philadelphia team that has been red hot going into the playoffs. They have a tough matchup coming up, though, against the Rams. And if you want to see this line and bet on this game, let's hear us out first. It's America's #1 sports book, so when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. Make sure you visit FanDuel today. The Eagles right now, they are -6.5 favorites over the Rams. And if you want to lock that in, once again, these can change throughout the day, throughout the hour. Make sure you head over to FanDuel.com right now. It's important that if you want to lock that in, you do it as soon as possible. This is going to be a really good game on NFL Sunday at 3 p.m. That's America's #1 sports book. Be sure to visit FanDuel today. Place all your sports bets. There's no better place to do so than FanDuel. So make sure you go check it out. So now back to the 76ers and how they play. We've been trying to avoid it as much as possible. No, it's just been a tough season here. So they fall to the Knicks in overtime a few days ago. This is a matchup that intrigues me, though, coming up for the Philadelphia 76ers on Saturday at 7 p.m. They're in Indiana against the Pacers. We don't know the status of Joel Embiid, so we can't really predict if they're going to have him or if they won't. But I think if you're Paul George and Tyrese Maxey, this is a game that you really want to build upon what you were able to do against the Knicks. Obviously, they fell short. They haven't been able to win games, but Tyrese Maxey having a 30-piece, 33 points, Paul George right behind him, with 25. So I think it's important, Keith, for Paul George and Tyrese Maxey to build off that and have a competitive game and put it all out there against the Pacers. I don't think they win this game, but I think if they have a little bit of momentum, this could be the game that of all the contests besides the Bulls, that they could possibly come out with a victory here on the road.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's kind of tough just because we don't know, right? I mean, at
Right,
this
who's going to
particular
play? Yeah.
time, you don't know who's going to play. I mean, the thing is, I mean, Embiid isn't the only one. There's also Andre Drummond,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now he could play. The thing is, if they don't play, I think they're just going to have a problem because the Pacers are just too big for them.
Right.
I mean, too big, and they're going to be able to do things, and like where it could end up not as bad, but they could take advantage of the Sixers' lack of height, kind of like the Cleveland Cavaliers did. Now, if Joel comes back and play, and he plays at a high level, the same thing for Drummond if he comes in, and then all of a sudden you can move Yabu back to the power forward position. I feel as if that, the 76ers, will basically could have a chance in this particular game. But, when we look at it, um, this team is athletic. They bring out a lot of players. They rotate a lot of players in and out the games. They're deep, probably one of the deepest teams. And the Sixers go out there with just like non-available players, and three of those players are their two-way guys,
Yeah.
right? So that means only 6 regular roster players. The 76ers surely are going to be in trouble.
Trouble is the word for them this season. It has been really tough right now. I think, it's not just Joel Embiid, and Andre Drummond clearly can take up space in the middle. I think if you can get him back in this game, the status of him right now, clearly he's been out, but if you can get him back in a game like this and he's healthy enough to come back, I think it's worth the effort to put him out there because you need to take up some space in the middle. Of course, Caleb Martin also has been a little bit banged up, Kyle Lowry as well, KJ Martin. So there's so many missing pieces for the Philadelphia 76ers team. And then you look ahead after the Pacers, and it just gets ugly for the Philadelphia 76ers. I mean, you have the Bucks, you have the Nuggets, you have the Cavs, you have the Bulls. And my biggest issue with this, Keith, is that you look at it right now. I'm going to circle back to their former MVP and Joel Embiid really quickly when we look ahead here. They haven't played him in games, right? They didn't play him a night ago against Karl Anthony Towns when Towns was actually out of that game. They sit him through that game. We don't know the status. We don't know if he's going to play. Are they going to shut him down? Nevertheless, this is a really tough stretch to bring anybody back who's been out for this extent of games. And it goes with Joel Embiid. It also goes with Andre Drummond, KJ Martin. All those guys are going to be a little bit rusty coming back. And I know they're NBA players, but you're talking about trying to bring people back in a stint where you have the Bucks, the Nuggets, and the Cavaliers right after the Pacers. I mean, this is just going to get ugly for the Philadelphia 76ers like it hasn't already.
Yeah, but unfortunately, they have no other choice, right?
They got to play.
And let's keep it 100. Like they could have tried. I mean, there was a stunt where they thought Joel was going to come back against Indiana, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't happen. But the thing is, I think Milwaukee is going to be a game that they're probably going to lose, right? Doc Rivers is always motivated to face the Sixers because they fired him, right? So he's going to go out there, and I don't think he hasn't. He has not lost to the Sixers since they released him. But the game that's really mind-boggling to me is the game against the Denver Nuggets. And that game would be Tuesday. And I know we'll probably have a podcast by then. But when we sit back and we talk about all these upcoming games, the reason why this game is intriguing is because Joel Embiid has only played in Denver once in his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
And that was 2019. And last year, the game before that, they were in Indiana, and I remember it like yesterday because I was the last guy in the locker room that was waiting. Everybody else left because it took them forever to get out there to do media. And I asked him about his knee, and he says it's killing him. I mean, he didn't say it was killing him, but he said it's bothering him. And it's kind of sort of like, he's having a hard time, dealing with it. And to me, that struck me because that's the first time that this guy ever admitted something like that.
Yeah.
Well, he goes to Denver. and right before the game, he was scratched. And I'm telling you, these people had a field day with him. I mean, they were calling him soft. They were calling him all types of names. And this comes after a year that they had basically wanted posters for Joel Embiid, like all over the arena.
Remember that?
So,
Yeah.
so to me, I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, is Joel going to play this game? Because no matter what happens, no matter what they say, these people are going to consider Joel Embiid ducking this guy, ducking him. I mean, they were yelling during the national anthem. It was so bad. A fan yelled, "Embiid's a coward," and that drew cheers. Then in the in the first quarter, the crowd chanted, "Where's Embiid at? Where's Embiid at? Where's Embiid at?" They kept doing that the whole time. So for me, I know that's 3 games in, but my mind is focused on, is Joel Embiid going to play against the Denver Nuggets? And if not, what type of reaction are the 76ers going to get?
It's not going to be a good reaction, but and contrary to that too, is that a game to be smart to bring him back against
Yeah.
the best center in the NBA? It's not, but you're right. At the same
You,
time,
hey,
people
hey,
are going to say, "Oh, well, Joel doesn't want to play Jokic, and he's just ducking
Kayla,
him," you know?
here's the thing. Here's the thing about Joel Embiid. Like, I think when you're Joel Embiid and you're a 2023 MVP, you're a 7-time All-Star, you're this and that, it ain't time to start ducking smoke saying, well, this guy is good and this guy's that. Joel Embiid is supposed to be the biggest, baddest guy on the planet. Last year, he was putting up numbers like Wilt. And when you look at the head-to-head against the Joker, he's basically dominated him. The problem is he just doesn't play him in Denver. Now, the one
Yeah, it's only
game, the
at
Joker
home.
got the
Yeah.
best. Yeah, so
Hmm.
like I don't think at this particular time, like where you can say, like, now maybe if it was Jared McCain, if it was somebody like that, or a young guy. But when you're like a first team all NBA guy, a guy who scored 70 points against, people, a guy who's done this, nah, you can't pick and choose when you play. You got to go out there and play.
Let me ask you this. So, year after year, Sixers fans defend Joel Embiid, the injuries, he hasn't had help in the playoffs, everything in between, right? It's always Joel is better than Jokic until Jokic goes on and wins 2 MVPs and becomes an NBA champion. Now, do you think 76ers fans start to lose that a little bit? Do you think Joel starts to lose maybe the respect and the fandom from the Philadelphia 76ers fan base? Because we already know what the Denver fans are going to do. But at the same time, I think the conversation from fans starts saying, okay, well, they've stuck up for this guy throughout his career, and now he consistently still isn't playing. They are not being real about his status, and he's ducking him once again. If that happens, do you think that Joel starts losing the fan base a little bit?
I think it depends. See, the Sixers fans are like, when it comes down to Joel Embiid, I feel like when he doesn't play, people get upset. But then
Mm-hmm.
when he does play and he dominates, it's like, that's our guy, Joel. So I think it depends on what he does. The one thing that I will say about Joel though, and the comparisons, if you want to say head to head, if you want to say head to head and this and that, Joel is better than him. Like,
Yes.
Joel, to
Mm-hmm.
me, Joel is more like, and I'm not comparing him to Michael Jordan. The game is different, but the comparison would be Joel is more like a Michael Jordan, where the Joker is more like a Magic Johnson. The Joker is, yeah, Magic Johnson, meaning whereas Jordan is like, I'm gonna put you on my back, and we're gonna dominate. Whereas Magic Johnson was getting the dishes, doing this, feeding the ball, feeding
Yeah.
everybody. But you know what? The problem is Joel Embiid's style of play hasn't enabled him to get out of the second round. Whereas Joker is a 3-time MVP, and he won a championship, right? So head to head, I'll take Embiid any day when they play each other, right? I don't know if it's like in with the altitude, and I think that's the part of the problem. But I think that if a fan loses faith in Embiid, is because in their minds you can't depend on him.
Mm-hmm.
He's not dependable. Whereas the Joker plays every game. Like, think about it. He doesn't miss games. Whereas Joel, the most games he played in a year was 60 something. So that's the big difference, is availability.
Yeah, and you go back to the conversation is availability is the best ability, right? Because if Joel could play every game and be healthy in the playoffs, I think the 76ers runs are a lot different in the postseason, but he just hasn't been. Jokic has really figured out the game. Now, in terms of better on both ends of the floor, it definitely is Joel Embiid, but Jokic is the one that's out there. Jokic is the one winning championships for his team, being unselfish. His assists are insane. The one-on-one matchups have been Joel's way at home, but not in Denver. So we'll wait and see if that ends up happening. And when the status is not only going to be on Joel Embiid, what the injury report is going to look like for the Philadelphia 76ers. It's starting to look like my shopping list when I need to go out when I have no groceries at home. It's starting to look like it's filled up like that for the Philadelphia 76ers. So they have a big weekend stretch coming up here, a back-to-back, the Pacers at 7 p.m. on the road in Indiana, followed by the Bucks on Sunday on the road in Milwaukee. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On 76ers. For Keith Pompey, I'm Kayla Santiago saying so long, and we'll see you next time.